Hey everyone, welcome to the Wednesday Wise guys. Today is the 19th of August, over halfway through the month. Today's lecture is going to be on batting. I'm just going to wait a few minutes while we let a few people jump on to start watching. So before I start talking about the batting, I just want to point out that we did get in a new line of fabric last week. It's called Farm Life by Quilting Treasures. So it consists of a panel, a large panel, and that panel ends at the blue. So for this sample, we actually added the black on to finish the panel out. And then there's a second panel that has the little square motifs in it. And then it's a nice tight little collection because it's just got your two panels, and then it's got a few of the little plaids to go with it. So the orange, the blue, the white, and there actually is one more that's gray and black. And then you have your animals. That would be a real cute border or a backing. And then you have the paisley print. We used the paisley print here, and we also used it here for the background. So that comes in the black and the green, and then also in the orange and the blue. So it's a real nice, fun little grouping. These also, we put them in the same display as that steampunk Halloween panel that we got in a couple weeks ago, because all of these work really well with that panel also. So it's just a fun little collection. We do have both of the panels online separately. We have the kits online, and then we also have just a separate pattern. It would be great for any panel. It doesn't even have to be a panel. It can just be a large print in the middle. If you don't have two panels to go together, you could very easily have just taken these little guys and put them in that square for your accent fabric rather than a second panel. So it's just a real fun little print. All right, we will get into today's topic of batting. I'm actually just going to sit today. And here we go. I do have my cheat sheets, so not all of this is just like in my head. I need sheets sometimes. So what is batting, right? Batting is that extra layer that we put between the pieced top and our backing fabric. So it's going to add your dimension. It's going to add your warmth, your drapability, but yet it's part of the quilt that nobody ever sees, but it can really make a difference in the finished quilt as you go through it. Okay, so what characteristics are you looking for in the quilt that you're making? These are the type of things you have to think about when you're choosing your batting. Not just, it's not just about the price, it's about the finished product. So the appearance of the quilt. Do you want it to be flat for a table runner or a wall hanging? Do you want it to be puffy? Do you want it to be snuggly? Do you want your stitches to be very defined? So you might want something a little puffier or something that squishes down real easy. So if you do micro stippling, it really flattens out. What is the function of it? Do you want it to be very stiff, or do you want it to be drapable? Is this going to go over a table? Are you going to be using it for a garment that you don't want to be all boxy? You want it to be able to flow when you put it on. What do you want for your washing resilience? So some can shrink a little more than others. Some are going to stay a little more stable. Is this for a baby quilt that's going to be washed and washed and washed and washed? You might want to go with something a little more stable when you use that. Do you need heat resistance? So you're using it for a table topper or some sort of a trivet that you're going to be putting a hot pot on. You're going to be using it for oven mitts or in the microwave to cook your potatoes. Okay, those are all things that need some heat resilience. You obviously wouldn't want to use a polyester batting for any of those things. The comfort level. Do you want it to be soft and snuggly? Something, I got a little bug flying around here. Something that you can snuggle up in for out on a bed or a chair, or do you want it to be stiffer that keeps its shape a little better for things like a wall hanging? Okay, so there's all these different factors in choosing which batting is going to be best for which project. every project is different. So what you have at home from one project may not be the best for a different project that you're already working on. Okay, so some of the different characteristics or terminology that you hear about batting. Number one is the loft, right? That's how thick the batting is. So if you want a more drapable one, you're going to go with a thinner batting. If you want it a little warmer, you might go with a thicker batting. Or if you want more definition, you might go with a puffy batting that puffs up where you don't quilt, but squishes flat where you do quilt. So it's really going to give you that stitch definition for the decorative stitching. The process of bonding, okay, all of these battings are made from different fibers and they need to be bonded together. So the standard way of doing it is needle punching. Well, we're going to take fibers, we're going to lay some, straight on, we're going to lay some on top of it going in a different direction, or sometimes at 45-degree angles. They might lay them in several different angles. And so they're cross layering them, and then they're going to take thousands of needles and just keep punching into that batting to weave those fibers together. So the more layers of fibers you have, the stronger it's going to be, and the more you punch it, the more it's going to stiffen together, and again, it's going to give you a little more stability. Obviously, the more layers thick you go, the thicker the batting is going to be also. Okay. The other ways that they can hold batting together, other than the needle punching, is by adding a resin, or some guy's gonna a resin to it, which is a type of a glue. So sometimes they'll add that to either the top or the bottom in order to help hold the fibers together a little bit better. A lot of times you find that when they're using the shorter fibers because they're just not long enough to intertwine themselves, okay? Higher quality batting is going to use the longer pieces from either the cotton or the wool or the polyester, so they don't need as much resin or glue to help them hold together. The other thing they'll maybe add is called a scrim, and that's a really thin, super thin layer, usually a polyester, almost like a netting. Some batting companies will put that on the bottom and then layer their different fibers and punch them through, and that scrim is going to help to hold them together. But you do get a very rough side to your batting and a softer side. Other companies will layer some of the fibers, then put the scrim, then layer more fibers. It's still going to hold all those fibers together and give you that extra support, but it feels soft on both sides, so you don't feel the scrim in the middle of the batting. The third way to help hold those fibers together is called thermal bonding. And that is, with the resins and the glue, you're actually adding a chemical to help hold them together. If you don't want chemical, but you still need a little extra support, just about any fiber has a melting point where it softens up, doesn't quite burn, but it's soft enough so they'll know the different fibers that are in the quilt or the batting that they're making. They'll heat them up to that melting point, and then when it cools down, they kind of stick to each other. So it's a non-chemical way to get your fibers to bond together aside of just the needle punching. Okay. The last thing is the rating on the batting, okay? And what that is every batting, if you look at a package, somewhere on the package, it's going to say, for this one, it says stitches up to 10 inches apart. Okay, that's the rating. How far apart your stitching lines can be when you put your layers together so that the batting itself, the integrity of the batting will remain. It's not going to shred when you wash it. It's not going to wad up and bunch up. If you're using it a lot, or washing and drying can really wreak havoc on the batting sometime. If you've ever had that old quilt from grandma and you wash it and all of a sudden there's just big lumps in the middle in between the stitch lines, that's because it wasn't bonded together well enough or needle punched well enough to hold the shape without the additional stitching. Okay, so when you're looking at something, when you're buying a batting, make sure you look at that stitching rate, Some of them can be as low as 4 inches. So every 4 inches, you need to have a stitching line. Some of them can go up to 12 inches, right? So a little bit bigger space that you can leave unquilted. And if you think about it, your fist is roughly about 4 inches. So if you buy a batting that says a 4-inch stitching guide, every space there cannot be an unquilted space bigger than your fist. You're also thinking about what's this project going to get used for. Again, is it going to get tugged around a lot? You may want a little more stitching. If it's like, I got to get this thing done because, you know, the wedding is tomorrow and I got to get it in the box and wrapped, I need to do some fast quilting, it may be better to have a little bit stronger batting in the middle so it can speed up that quilting process. Okay? So I have lots of samples here, and let's go through and explore some of the different samples, and I'll kind of give you the highlights of each different fiber and how they work. So traditionally, you know, from day one, they either used wool or cotton in their batting. Those were the natural fibers that were available before we had polyesters and plastics and all of those things. You either made your battings from wool or from the cotton. So the cotton, again, you're looking for the better quality battings are going to have that longer staple cotton fiber in it, so that when they punch it together, it's just going to twist within each other a little more and making it a little stronger. The brand that we carry here at the Sewing Basket is Quilter's Dream brand, so most of what I'm talking about today is going to be this brand. Quilter's Dream has a process, a special process they use, especially with the cotton, that prevents the shifting and the lumping in when you're laundering or there's a lot of use for a quilt. One of the nice factors about cotton is it absorbs moisture. And what that will do is in the winter, it's going to absorb that moisture and it's actually going to keep you warmer in the winter. In the summer, when it absorbs the moisture, it's going to keep you a little cooler. So it's a nice way to have that temperature control, especially under a quilt that you're covering up with. Okay. Because this product is manufactured so evenly, it's also going to quilt very evenly, so you're not going to have, as you're sewing, you're not going to be hitting big lumps and bumps that are going to, you know, be pounding your needle through it. They manufacture it to remove as many of the seeds as they possibly can. They're never going to be 100%, but you don't want those little husks of the seed left in your quilt. One, if they're big enough, they can actually break a needle when you hit them. But two, especially if you're using a light color fabric on the back or the front, they can actually release tiny bits of oil over the years, which can stain a light colored fabric. So you want to be careful if you're using 100% cotton that has a lot of those seeds in it. You also want to be very careful if you're using it for a microwave project, because those little seed particles can be hot spots, which can heat up hotter in the microwave than either the food or the cotton or the fabric. So you want to be careful of that. Good cotton is going to have minimal shrinkage because of the cleaning process that they do when they're manufacturing it. The majority of the shrinkage is already out of there. Cotton will have some shrinkage. Personally, I like when my quilts shrink. I think that when you do the quilting, I like to have that definition around my stitches. I think it makes it pop out a little bit nicer. Some people don't. Some people like their projects to remain flat as a board if they can, and that's your personal preference. But my favorite thing to do when I finally get the binding on is throw it in the washer and dryer, so I get that kind of old-fashioned pucker to it. Cotton also, one of the negative sides on it is it doesn't drape as well. It's stiffer, a little bit, you know, tighter punched and woven. So when you lay it on a bed, it'll flop down, and it's fine for a bed, it's fine for snuggling on a couch, but you wouldn't want to use it in a garment construction. On a table topper, it may be a little stiffer than what you want. The Quilter's Dream cotton, you can stitch up to 8 inches apart, so it's giving you a fairly decent area that you can leave unstitched and still keep the stability of the cotton. Within the Quilter's Dream, we mostly carry the select weight, so it's a pretty middle of the road thickness to the batting. They do have 4 thicknesses, so we carry a few of the sizes in the request, which is super thin. If you want 100% cotton and you want that drapeability, you're going to go with the request. Then they also have the deluxe, and this one is called the Supreme Love. So if you can see the difference from the heaviest to the thinnest, it's probably 4 times thicker. Okay, we don't carry all of them, but we can order any thickness in any size. Okay, so we can do a lot of special orders if you're really looking for something specific. So that's your cotton. Then we also had the wool batting, which was typically the other batting that they would work with. Again, one of the big things about wool that people always feared was it would shrink so much. Again, the process that Quilter Dreams go through to clean it and card it and get it stabilized, there's literally no shrinkage to their wool batting. This is my preferred batting. I use it in almost all my quilts that are going to go on a bed. What I like about it, again, it's a very warm batting. It's going to keep you warm, but yet it's not as heavy as the cotton batting. So sometimes if you're sleeping at night and your body almost aches from the weight of the blankets or the quilts on top of you, this is going to give you the warmth that you want in the winter, but yet the lighter weight to make it more comfortable. It's great for that texture quilting because where you don't quilt, it's going to stay puffy, but yet I can do very tight micro stippling around it. It's just going to totally flatten down and then leave it puffy where I don't stitch. So it's great for that. One of the things that wool can do, it's called bearding. Because it's a little bit looser woven together or punched together, if your needle goes down and comes back up, it can actually, especially if you burr on a needle, it can pull some of those fibers back up. So if you're dealing with a dark fabric and a light batting, you can get these little tiny fibers that pull in. Or over time, it can start to worm its way up through the fabric itself, and you might get little fibers from the batting on top. So it is one of probably the downsides of the wool batting or anything that's loosely woven is you can have that bearding issue. It is a little bit higher cost, but for me, I always felt it was worth it. One of the things when you're looking at cost is you need to compare, they'll look at the cotton one, let's say, is $20 and the wool one is $30. And they'll just look at it and say, oh my God, $30, it's so expensive. Well, it's only $10 more than the other option. It's not like the cotton one was free and this one's $30, okay? So the difference between the two is going to be $10. Is that $10 extra worth getting the result you want for the project that you're working on? Again, that's a choice you have to make. Doesn't matter to us, doesn't matter to any store you buy it at. But that's what you have to think about is it's not only the higher cost, it's the difference between the two choices, okay? If you think about it, especially on a large quilt, you've spent a couple $100, how many hundreds of hours making it? For me, the extra $10, $15 for the batting that I want is worth it. But again, that's your choice. The wool batting, again, you can stitch it up to 8 inches apart and still keep the integrity of the batting. So that's a nice size. After the 2 natural fibers came polyester batting, right? Oh, it was great. It was so much cheaper than the natural fibers, right? Because it's it's a plastic. It's basically an extruded fine fiber that can be man-made, so you can control the process a little bit easier. One of the negative things on the polyester was always that it was like sleeping underneath a plastic bag, right? Because your batting is a layer of plastic, so it can be hot and sweaty. Quilter's Dream they've come up with a new process, a new technology called denier, not sure what that means, denier microfibers, and they imitate natural fibers. So even though it's polyester, you get the money-saving qualities of it, but you still get more of a natural, breathable fiber like the cotton or the wool. It is extremely stable, so there's literally no shrinkage at all. This is one of the best things for like a baby quilt that's going to be washed a lot. Table runners, anything that's going to be laundered a lot, the polyester is really nice. It does have the low cost. There's also a high loft that I'll show you in the middle, so if you like that puffy comforter look for tying it together, you can put 1 or 2 layers of the puffy polyester together and really get that high loft look of a comforter. It holds its shape. It's going to keep nice crisp corners. So again, for wall hangings, it might be a better choice because it's just got that stability to it. And best of all, you can quilt it up to 12 inches apart because it is such a stable product. Okay, so again, the select loft like this one is what we normally carry in the shop. It also comes in a thicker loft, and this would have to be a special order. And then with the polyester, because they can add any color to it, they also have a black. And this is great for if you're concerned about the bearding part of it. So if I have a really dark navy blue or black quilt, you may want to use a black batting. That way, if there is any bearding, it's going to be little black fibers, not white ones all over your dark quilt. So it is an option to get a black batting if that's something you're looking for. So once we had our natural fibers, our cotton, our wool, our polyester, of course we started mixing the two up. So we have some different blends, okay? One of the most common blends is going to be the 80-20. So that is going to be 80% of the cotton, 20% of the polyester. So again, you're going to get that beautiful breathability from the cotton. The polyester is going to give it a little more stability when you're washing it. It's going to have a little less shrinkage when you're washing it. It's also going to make it a little bit lighter. Again, the weight of that 100% cotton can be kind of heavy, so it's going to lighten it up physically on top of you. And it also gives a little bit more loft, a little more height, puffiness to the cotton, okay? Because it is 80% cotton, you're still going to have that lower drape than you would with some of the other ones, okay? We also carry the Quilter's Dream. They take the 80-20 and then on the back they add a real lightweight fusible webbing. So this can be a fusible batting. So, and we love these for anything that we have to turn right side out through a hole. So I'm gonna fuse this onto my backing, or just a small project that I can quilt on my home machine and I don't have to worry about watching the back for puckers and things like that. I can pay attention at the top, but my batting is fused to my backing. So it really helps with those type of smaller projects where you're quilting them yourself at home. And then Quilter's Dream added the 70-30 blend. Now, all of the things I've talked about up to this point are just 100% needle punched fibers. There's no resin, there's no glue, there's no scrim, okay? This one here, the 70-30, they added a scrim into the middle of it. And the purpose for that was it was made specifically for the long arm quilters. There's a lot more tugging and pulling on a quilt when a long armer is doing it, getting it on the frame and grabbing their clamps onto it. So they added that light layer of scrim in between 2 layers of the fiber. So it's soft on each side, but you're getting that extra strength of the scrim for the process of machine quilting. So their little motto for this one is soft to hug, but takes a tug, right? Those long armers can pull on it and not rip it or stretch it out of shape, which then will give you a pucker in your quilt. Again, the polyester is going to give you the less shrinkage. It's also going to make it a little bit lighter weight, a little higher loft, but the scrim again will add that lower drape ability to it. And again, this one's great because it will quilt up to 12 inches apart, so you can leave nice big areas unquilted if you choose to. So that's our two cotton poly blends. Then they came out with the Dream Orient, okay? And they like to say this is East meets West, right? You're kind of taking all these different fibers, the best parts of all of them, and combining it into one. One of the first things is it's super thin and super flexible. So we have people that just love these even for big quilts. Brittany, who works here, she bought this queen size and was able to roll it up tight enough to quilt it in her home machine up here.
Looks like we're on.
I think we're
Somebody
on.
say hello.
Yep.
Did we lose you? We're down a few people. I don't know if we lost them.
There's always a time delay with the hello thing.
Go ahead and it
Okay.
looks like we're set.
All right, we're gonna keep going with the Orient. So it's the, again, 4 fibers: the cotton, the wool, the bamboo, and then the tencel made from the eucalyptus. I guess we're on.
Looks like we're on.
Okay, so that is called the imitation silk. So again, it's very soft, very, very delicate. What wool is to a winter quilt, the puffy, the warm, the Dream Orient is to a summer quilt. So it's going to give you all of those aspects of the wool quilt, but it's going to be thinner and lighter. So in the summer, when you just don't want that big, heavy, puffy quilt on you, you can go with the Dream Orient. The drape on it is impeccable. It dries super quickly, which is nice for a summer quilt also. It resists wrinkles as well as the wool. Those are two of the battings that people who do competition quilting like to use, either wool or the bamboo, because when they're shipping them in boxes, they won't hold a crease. So when you open them up, they're still as flat as when you put them in the box. Minimal shrinkage. The downside to it is the most expensive of all the battings because of all the specialty fibers that are in it. Okay, so again, we had our wool, we had our polyester, we had our cotton polyester blends, and then our specialty blend. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is just the quality of different battings between companies for technically the same product. Okay, so we're going to go back to our polyester. Okay, so again, this is what would be considered a low loft polyester batting from Quilter's Blend. And you can see I put them on these papers, and it's very even, and it almost looks like a blanket. Okay. Then I went to some of the big box stores around here, the mass market stores, and I just purchased some of the different products that they have. And so I'm going to show you this first. This is also the Quilter's Dream Puffy Polyester. Okay, so this is the one that I said if you want to tie a quilt, you can use this. You can actually layer it twice, and you're going to get the puffiness like the wool, but at the polyester price. So these are the two battings that we get from Quilter's Dream. And again, you can see against the paper that it's just very evenly distributed and punched together. So from one of the other companies, this is what they considered to be their high loft batting. So first of all, you can see quite a bit of a difference between the two lofts. This is high loft, this is high loft. Okay. If you look at this as it came out of the package, I couldn't get rid of the wrinkles. And when you look at it, there's some spots that are real loosely woven together, some that are more denser. If you feel around, there's actually some little hard spots in there that if your needle hit it, it could bounce around or potentially even break. Okay, so the quality of this one just is not going to match the quality of this. People say, yeah, but it's cheaper. Okay, so I looked into that, and what really got me was when I took the size, because they're all different size packages, when I broke it down into the price per square inch between this one and this one. So this batting is going to be per square inch 0.0022, so 22 thousandths of a dollar per square inch. The Quilter's Dream was 0.0027. So you're talking 5 thousandths of a dollar more for the better quality that you're going to get from this. Okay? So don't always assume that just because it costs less that it's a better deal. Sometimes you're paying for a much lower quality product, almost the same price as getting a better product. Okay? And also comparing this, which is considered to be the Quilter's Dream low loft polyester. By the way, this one you had to stitch it up to 4 inches apart. So you couldn't, again, it's going to be a lower rate for your stitching because it's not punched together as tight. So you need to add the support to keep it in place. Something like this, they've punched it together so it will stay in place on its own. Okay? So this one was up to 8 inches, this one was up to 4 inches. Again, this one, the polyester is up to 12 inches apart for the low loft. This was the low loft polyester that I got at the other store. Okay? And I mean, if you look at it, you can practically see through it. It's really not much. If I tug just a little bit, I'm going to start pulling it apart. It's about as tough as a cotton ball. Okay? Again, the cost on this one, 0.0022. The cost on this one, 0.0030. So for 7 thousandths of a dollar more, I'm going to get a product that's probably 10 times better. This one didn't even have a rating on the package. It didn't give you a stitch width to keep it apart. So my thought is, if it doesn't tell you how close together to stitch it, you probably shouldn't use it. Okay? 12 inches apart, don't know. Okay? And again, you can make whatever choice you want. We just want to give you the information. If you've never compared them, you don't know the difference. Okay, so that was comparing some of the polyester batting. Gotta find my other one here. They fell. So this one is going to be 100% cotton batting. This is the Warm and Natural product, which a lot of people use. It's a fine batting, but you can see compared to what would be considered this one up there and this one. Okay, so these are all considered the same weight loft thickness. Okay, so this is the Quilter's Dream. Again, it's very consistent, almost looks like a blanket in itself. This is the Warm and Natural, which they're kind of known for having those little seeds in there. Some people like it, but there can be some issues with it. You can tell it's a little bit thinner. It also does have a bit of a scrim on there that you can feel. And then this was the other brand that we got that, again, you can just tell the inconsistencies and how it's needled together. You're going to have low spots, you're going to have thick spots. Again, the difference in the price, 0.0033, 0.0037, and 0.0042. So of all the battings that I had, the difference from the least expensive to the most expensive was in the cotton. But you're going from 3.3 to 4.2. So in the realm of things, I don't believe for the quality of product that you're getting that it's that much of a difference. Okay. And then the last one, everything mixed up here. The last one I had to talk about that was another specialty that was created by Quilter's Dream. It's called the Dream Angel. And this was actually, it's a special man-made fiber that is fire retardant. So if you're doing something for a baby and you're concerned about having the flame proof for the blanket that's going to be in the baby's bed, this is a really nice product for that. It's designed to have a very low melt rate. If you put a flame to it, it will not catch on fire, but yet it's as breathable and soft as a cotton. And this one also will quilt up to 6 inches apart. Okay. One other thing that, just knowing how battings are going to react. If you purchase different battings, we always have a hunk of them left over. So we have this little sample here so that our customers can look at them. But if you have batting left over from a project, take 2 squares, sandwich that batting, and do some simple quilting on it so that, and then put on there what that batting is. So down the road, if you're like, whatever batting I used in Julie's quilt, I wish I knew which one it was. If you make a little sandwich and keep it in your drawer, you can even wash and dry them, and you'll know how they're going to react in those situations also. So have these little samples that you mark on them, what project you used it for, maybe where you got it, if there was something you liked about it or didn't. You already have the scrap batting laying around, so you might as well make yourself just some little samples to work with them. All right, I think that's all the information I have for you today. Hope that we didn't bore you too much or that you learned something. If you have any questions, you can always ask us when you come in. Again, the select and some of the request weights we always have in stock. Any of the other ones we need to special order, but we can do that for you anytime. So we hope you have a great afternoon. Have a great weekend. Sounds like it's going to be beautiful weather the rest of the week, and we will see you next Wednesday. Bye.